Welcome back to the program. So first and foremost, what I want to discuss is something that we've talked about in the past, and that is Act Blue. Now, you've heard of Act Blue. Act Blue is basically the equivalent of Win Red. Win Red, of course, is the major fundraising arm for the RNC and for Republicans. Well, Act Blue is basically the exact same thing, but for the left. The only difference is Win Red, as far as I can tell, is not a money laundering operation, in which Act Blue absolutely definitely is. You've seen numerous reports throughout the past year and a half, 2 years or so, in which you hear about the seniors. James O'Keefe knocked on people's doors in Maryland, knocked on their doors and said, "Hey, is this your donation? Is this what you put on this?" And they're like, "No, I've never seen that before." So what they've been doing is they get a signature, they get a donation from one person, and then they duplicate that without even letting the people know, okay? And then they launder that money to give to their left-wing organizations and to get out the vote operations and to help steal elections and all the other crazy stuff that we know the left does and is capable of doing. Well, at this point right now, they have fired 7 of their top managers. They have fired the financial people that are behind the organization. Many of them are resigning, and it looks as though, at least at this point, Act Blue is going under. And it couldn't happen to a nicer organization, as far as I'm concerned. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we know that Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas, has opened up a full investigation into Act Blue and, of course, their money laundering operation. We know that OMG Media and James O'Keefe also have the receipts and the goods on the organization. Now, this organization is also funded by the Open Society Institute, which, of course, is the Soros Society, right? George Soros, he's pretty old right now, so mainly Alexander, the spawn of Satan, we'll call him. He's the one that's calling the shots and running that organization. But he's running that organization with daddy's money, okay? And that is an organization, the Open Society, that has about 140 umbrella organizations all underneath that he funds and has continued to fund. Now, here's the thing. Act Blue is one of, if not the largest, Democrat funding operation for the entire party. So if we can take them out, and I'll use those words, get rid of them, put them under indictment, put them under investigation, and shut them down for illegal business practices and for money laundering and extortion of old people. I mean, the list is endless of what these people have done and what they're capable of continuing to do. Well, it's interesting because now they have messed with the wrong person, okay? They have messed with the wrong person, and that wrong person is Elon Musk. What Elon Musk did was he diverted, whatever you want to call it, just a few, maybe big balls, who knows, but just 1 or 2 of the DOGE kids over to Act Blue. And they ran their forensics and their AI and everything else. And he was able to determine that Act Blue and, of course, George Soros and his Open Society were the ones behind the Tesla dealership assaults and the cars in general. So they created this AstroTurf because nobody was doing this. No one was really that upset with Elon Musk and Tesla. And instead, they organized, like they always do, these protests, and many of them turned violent, and they were attacking some of these Tesla dealerships. So Elon figured it out. And now, guess what? You messed with the wrong person, because Elon Musk now has all the information, and guess where he's going? That's right. He's going to the Department of Justice, and he's getting help on it because the Missouri Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, is also taking a look at this and is going forward with, an investigation towards the Department of Justice. So at this point right now, Pam Bondi has not signaled yet whether or not she's going to take this on, but hopefully she will. Elon Musk reveals the big-name Democratic donors funding the attacks on the Tesla stores. Posting on X's platform that he owns, of course, Musk said that he believes that 5 groups are behind these protests, many of which have resorted to violence. However, these groups are all funded by Act Blue, the troubled Democratic Party fundraising organization backed by the liberal billionaire donors, including, of course, George Soros and the LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman, another anti-Trumper as well. Investigation has found 5 Act Blue funded groups responsible for the Tesla quote-unquote protest, again, AstroTurf, troublemakers, Disruption Project, Rise and Resist, Indivisible Project, and, of course, the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a nasty, insidious group that sadly has been around for a while. What's interesting about them is that Kamala Harris, Heels Up Headboard Harris, was extremely close with them. They're close with that other group called the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which was the one that Harris was giving money to get out the rioters and the looters during the George Floyd Summer of Love. So they're all interconnected, but one of the big fundraising arm of that is Act Blue. And so I am doing whatever I can to continue to put the pressure on these people because I want them to take out Act Blue. If they take out Act Blue before the 2026 election, the midterms, and if we can also couple that with getting these illegal aliens out of the country in mass droves, well, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for them to steal elections. So that's what I'm focused on. So Act Blue funders include George Soros, Reid Hoffman, Herbert Sandler, Patricia Baumann, and Lee Hunt Hendricks. Act Blue, again, is currently under investigation for foreign and illegal donations and criminal violation of campaign finance regulations. This week, 7 Act Blue senior officials resigned, including the Associate General Counsel. The Tesla CEO asked followers to share any additional information with him in any posts in the replies. So from Elon Musk, an investigation has found 5 Act Blue funded groups responsible for Tesla's protests. And then he goes through and he names the people. So this is important because he is now referring them also to Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice. So let's keep our fingers crossed that Act Blue ends up gone. Okay? And the people are arrested, indicted, imprisoned, jailed, and never to be heard from again. Because it's an insidious organization that has just, taken advantage of seniors. They have taken their money when they didn't know they were having their money taken from them. They have duplicated donations when they weren't supposed to. It's a really bad, terrible organization. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on that one. Now, I wanted to cover this too. We're going to do a shorter show tonight because I got a lot of stuff that I got to get to. But this is your government. Now, for the past 3 or 4 years, you may remember from time to time that I've done shows on the age of the senators and the House members in Washington. We know that John McCain, when he was around, he had all kinds of issues with his health. Nancy Pelosi has issues with her health. Chuck Schumer has issues. Of course, Mitch McConnell has issues. They all have issues with their health. And they are all on some type of pharmaceutical drug. And some of them are mind-altering drugs as well. But that's just part of it. Now we're hearing from members of Congress that they're showing up drunk to do votes. They are on drugs of all different kinds. And, quite frankly, many of them are suffering from late stages of dementia. It's not just Joe Biden. It's not just Nancy. It's not just Mitch McConnell. It's a lot of members on both sides of the aisle that literally are the poster board for why we need term limits. But on top of term limits, it might be about time that we ought to install breathalyzers in the Senate chambers and have them all pee in a cup before they're allowed to vote. Because obviously they're drinking and drugging as well. And when you're on drugs and you're drinking and everything else, you're probably not making too sound decisions. But then again, what am I saying? It's not like they ever read their bills anyway, right? So this is your government. Capitol Hill lawmakers dropped disturbing details revealing the dire health issues behind many of their colleagues. We all know how poorly members of Congress behave and represent the American people, but now lawmakers are dropping damning information alleging revealing and dire situations on how bad Capitol Hill truly is. Let's see. It goes on to talk about, here it is. This is, they're talking about the numerous falls that we have seen from elderly politicians like Representative Nancy Pelosi, who just broke her hip, and of course the freezing Mitch face, McConnell, who freezes all the time. Representative Jim Himes, Democrat, by the way, from Connecticut, told Politico that he knows personally up to a dozen of his colleagues that are in advanced stages of cognitive decline and dementia. And literally, his words, not mine, have no clue what they are voting on. Let me repeat that. A Democrat member of the House of Representatives has said that he knows at least a dozen of his fellow colleagues in the House of Representatives that are in such cognitive decline that they have no clue what they are voting on. Quote, "There's no question that somewhere between a dozen or more of my colleagues are at a point where they are, well, let's just say they don't have the faculties to do their job," he revealed. A Republican lawmaker who withheld his name also agreed with Himes that dementia is majorly on the rise on the Hill, and it is a huge problem. "I have a difficult time sometimes telling between the deterioration of members and a handful who are just not very smart." Representative Don Bayer, Democrat Virginia, dropped even more disturbing information to Politico. Members of Congress are showing up drunk and high when they go to vote. So not only are they not reading what they're voting on, but now they're taking shots, they're drunk as a skunk, and who knows what kind of drugs they're doing. And they're going, yeah, it's not my future, I don't give a shit, let's just vote for that. That's what's happening right now. This is why we need term limits in the worst way. Let's see. I've seen one Republican who, unfortunately for you, has to go unnamed, show up completely drunk a number of times, he said. There were one or two other Democrats that I know that were definitely drunk and probably high on something, he continued. So here you have members of Congress that are drunk, high, and riddled with dementia. Voting. That's right, voting for us. Gee, what could possibly go wrong? Unbelievable. We need term limits in the worst way. How do we get term limits? Well, the only way you're going to get people to vote themselves out of a powerful position is if you allow the people in those powerful positions to be grandfathered in. So let me explain this. Liam, you know what I'm talking about because you've said, and I've discussed it with you in the Full Throttle Thursday and others. So basically, here's what you do, okay? You say, okay, look, we need term limits on the House and the Senate. I'd like to see it on the Supreme Court, too, to be honest. Most people don't, but I do. But we need to have term limits. So how are you going to get these people that don't ever want to leave Washington to somehow leave Washington and vote for others not to be able to do what they have been able to do, which is stay there for the foreseeable future, and the seat never opens up unless they resign, go to jail, die, or somehow get beat in a primary, which doesn't happen very often because the primaries for both parties are set up to keep the outsiders from winning. Okay, that's how it's been for many years. So here's what you'd have to do. You would have to say to the House and to the Senate, look, we need term limits. We expect you to vote for term limits. However, if you vote for term limits, we will grandfather you in, meaning that you can stay in your House seat or your Senate seat and run as many times as you want, or until you get beat, or you die, or you resign. Once that seat leaves, the person leaves that seat, it automatically kicks in for the next person that has it for term limits. Okay? And I'd like to see no more than 4 2-year terms and no more than 2 6-year terms. And quite frankly, I would like to lower the senators back to 4 years. So 2 4-year terms, I think, would be best. The Supreme Court, 15 years on the bench, and that's it. You then get to get reconfirmed for an additional 5 years. If you can make it an additional 5, great. 20 years on the bench is plenty of time. Now, I know some people are going to be like, well, Josh, what about the good ones? Well, hey, like I always say, politicians are like dirty diapers. They need to be changed and changed often. A lot of times we think we're getting a hardcore, stalwart conservative on the bench, and they end up being an Amy Coney Barrett or a John G. Roberts, okay, or even a Brett Kavanaugh. So wouldn't it be nice to get rid of those and get more conservative members? And what about the leftist radicals on the other side? Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan, Sonia Sotomayor. Wouldn't you like to have a chance to get rid of them as well? That's why I do believe in term limits for the Supreme Court as well. So that's how it would work. If we did this and we grandfathered these people in, I would say within a decade, you would have just about all of those people gone, and within 10 years, you would have long-lasting term limits. Okay? So we'll see what happens. I don't think there's a bill right now being brought upon for term limits. I know some of them have discussed it. Rand Paul has discussed it. A few others have discussed it. Thomas Massie in the House, I believe, as well. So we'll see what happens. Maybe it's time to contact our members of Congress and tell them, hey, if you want to eliminate government, the best way to do it is to eliminate your ability to quote-unquote serve us. So we need term limits. We'll grandfather you in. Once your seat is up, the next person that comes in, they are no longer grandfathered in, and term limits will continue at that point. Anyway, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.